What are you doing? God.
Going live, Ava. All right. Welcome to the think tank. We're going to be going live in about 25 minutes. In the meantime, my daughter wants to introduce herself to everybody. So I'm going to let her do that. I'm going to finish setting this video up first. After I set the video up, I'm going to let you come in and say hello to everybody. She's going to be having her own channel soon. Y'all have to tune in and watch. She's going to be giving y'all stories. She's a very imaginative, creative child. If anybody knows this channel knows I'm a creative soul, and she came by it naturally, but then she does stuff that completely blows me out the water. She's amazing. So y'all are going to get the, well, if you have children, they'll watch it. This is not for the adults, for me and her. It's going to be storytelling for kids, probably 10 and under. Amazing stories. She's very creative. New stories will probably be done once or twice a week when we start out, just to get the feel, just so y'all know what it is. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a kids channel. I'll link it in. I'm getting the equipment ready for her to set that up. It's not ready yet, but it will be soon. She's sitting there. She pokes her head in once in a while I'm doing my lives. So y'all probably seen her before. She is my little girl. What can I say? I'm just gonna type something in the description box right quick. In the description box, I think I'm gonna go with Hakeem Jeffries, since he's leading us right now in the fight to try and save humanity. He calls the big bill the big ugly bill. As anybody that's been in this chat before knows, I call it the big bad bill, but I'm falling in line. And that's what we got to do. We got somebody we can get behind. Now, here's what happens with a leader. You don't have to agree with everything they say, but you got to support the people that's going to do the best for you. And that's what people don't understand about politics. They expect somebody to come with a magic pill. And Trump says everything that they want to hear. And so they jump aboard. So they use him for an example. There's no such thing as a magic pill. You had the magic hour. What was it? The new give me 1 second, Abby. You can come on in 1 second, honey.
Gina, right now.
Yes, please shut that dog up. I do not like her dog, but I love her, so I have a dog. And that's just kind of how that goes, right? For those of y'all who don't have kids, you'll never understand my plight. But I'm not a dog person.
Rosie, please be crying. I love you, but please be crying.
All right, I'm almost done with my little setup here. Discussion of the big ugly bill, Elon's new party, America First, National Weather Service defunded, leading to significant tragedy. This Ava, you can't be doing all that, Ava. Stop doing that. You can't be in here. You gotta give me one more minute. I just gotta finish setting up my channel, setting this up. Trying to get this all ready. Today we're gonna do hashtag NWS, hashtag National Weather Service, hashtag Elon. I've got Elon in here. All right. We got a NWS. It's only 17,000 people talking about the NWS. Y'all gonna talk about it soon. Y'all might not know. Oh, that's significantly more. That's kind of no, it's only 5,000. We're gonna talk about it. The fact that y'all not talking about the National Weather Service, the tragedy in Texas, which led to significant. I don't want to say certain things. I don't want to get demonetized. Well, I'm not even monetized. I don't want strikes against my channel. So I have to be careful on how I present this news to you. But multiple children have paid the ultimate price because the National Weather Service and affiliates were demonetized. So Doge came through, as y'all know, started cutting things like cha-cha-cha-cha. They cut the National Weather Service. In your area right now, in your area, right this minute, you got people talking about, yo, I don't understand what's going on. They can't predict the weather. They say it's going to rain today and the sun be out. Say the sun going to be out and it rain. Like, yo, they've gotten it wrong in the past. They say, yo, it's going to be snow. It's going to be a snowstorm. And, it'll be bright and sunny. But the degradation of the ability to predict weather in the last year is astronomical. Right now, we can't, Ava, we can't even tell if it's going to rain or not. It's a running joke at this point. We got hit with a tornado 2 weeks ago. The National Weather Service didn't announce that there was going to be rain till after the tornado was over. Like, literally. All right, before I keep going, let me introduce this young lady so she can get out of here. Come in. Come say hi to everybody. Come sit in my lap for a second. Get this dog out of here. The dog thinks I was calling for her. Yeah, no, you're not. We don't love you. All right, so the camera's here, Ava. So this is my little one. Her name is Ava. Ava Sophia Sanderson. Yes, Sophia. I said your whole government. And what we're going to do is we're going to be having a whole show with this little one here and her favorite character in the world here is going to be giving y'all stories. She comes up with original stuff. It's not going to be the things you see in the Archie comics or in the cartoons. She literally comes up with new stories every day, and she can go for hours. So we're going to do that. But right now, we're going to get out of here. You have to say hello to everybody. Wave to everybody. Say hello.
Hi.
All right. Now it's daddy time because daddy got to talk about serious adult stuff. But we're going to be doing that, okay?
Okay.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
Yeah.
All right. So now you know a little bit about who I am. Back to what I was discussing, because this is actually a very serious issue. The National Weather Service not being able to predict weather is a phenomenon that is very recent. Like, yeah, sometimes there'll be a snowstorm and they'll be like, oh, it's going to snow, and they miss a day. It happens. couple of times. Schools are closed and it'd be bright and sunny outside. It might not be warm, but it don't be no snow. It's happened a few times. The amount of times that can happen, I can count on one hand. Bow, right in the kiss of the five knuckles, you know. But this summer, they're literally wrong like almost every day. They got the 100 degrees correct in the New York tri-state area. But as far as the day to day, if it's going to rain or not, they're literally wrong just about every day, like almost every day. And I'm like, yo, what could have possibly happened that they got it so bad? Why are they wrong? How are they missing this badly? And then something tragic happened in Texas. The tragedy in Texas involved the flooding. I'm sure many of you heard about the flooding in Texas. Children are gone. The leaders in Texas are saying that this happened because they weren't warned of floods, so people could not properly acclimate and prepare. So this is because the kids that were out camping to suffer such a tragedy. As you just saw, I have my own child. I couldn't imagine something so devastating. And this all ties in with the fact that they can't predict the weather. So you would have to ask, why is it that they can't predict the weather? Because Doge defunded them. They got rid of 20%. For those of y'all who don't know, let's do the quick math, right? 20%. Got five fingers, right? It's 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. So they got rid of 20%. That's one in every five people were cut in the Doge. 20%. One in every five people were cut, including the head of the department. Get this, you ready? Responsible for predicting the weather. That's why right now in your hometown, you don't know what the weather's going to be. That's why in Texas, there was about to be a flood and nobody knew it was coming. And because nobody knew it was coming, these poor kids was out camping. And the entire camp basically seems to have been wiped out. All of them. Because funding was cut to an essential service. But it gets worse. So you're like, how could it be worse, right? Well, predicting is beforehand. If you could predict beforehand, maybe these people wouldn't have saved their life, wouldn't have lost their lives. But now we're going into hurricane season. We're beginning hurricane season now. We're in hurricane season. They can't predict the weather. They can't tell me if it's going to rain tomorrow in hurricane season. So they can't tell if hurricanes are going to form. They can't tell what directions they're going to go. These are obvious issues that are going to occur. They can't even tell if it's going to rain, let alone what a hurricane's going to do. Now, let's fast forward. People survive the hurricanes. What happens after that? Properties destroyed. People might be in danger without electricity. More essential services are required to survive such a disaster. So who do you go to when a disaster like this occurs? Fortunately, we had in the past a strong response team, known to many as FEMA, the FEMA disaster relief. The unfortunate cutting of the FEMA, where they're now trying to push the funding that FEMA did and the jobs that FEMA did during disasters onto the state. They're saying, the Trump administration is saying, we're going to allow the state to take care of the majority of the funding for this. States that do not have the funding and capability to provide emergency services in a disaster such as a hurricane, tornado, or a wildfire. So on both ends right now, and this is, we haven't even jumped into the rest of the disaster we call the one big bad bill, or as our party, I'm not even a Democrat, so I can't say our party. I will say the party that I most closely relate to in the two-party system that is currently set up, and then we'll talk about the Elon thing, because we have to discuss that, right? I will say that the party leader in the Democratic Party leader calls it the big ugly bill. I can't argue with that. That bill is disgusting. But and the FEMA cuts are closely tied to that big bad bill. So now in hurricane season and wildfire season in California, in case y'all don't know, let's explain a little bit about wildfires, because there's a lot that people don't know about wildfires. People honestly expect that these wildfires are rare incidents and don't understand why they occur. In truth, wildfires happen every year from Canada to California like clockwork. It's a part of the natural order of things. As sure as it's going to rain, you're going to get wildfires. This cannot be prevented. The camouflage of it's because the leaves aren't raked is ignorance. Now, I don't know a lot about environment. I did used to be an environmental science teacher. Yeah, I digress. Wildfires are a natural occurrence. They're going to happen. You could do things to slow them down, but you cannot prevent. They're going to happen. Would they happen as badly? Would they spread as far as current? Probably if we didn't have global warming. And now we have to jump into that, right? Because we're talking about the big bad bill. We're talking about the fact that things are getting worse. The fact that the National Weather Service can't tell you what's about to happen. The fact that FEMA is cut. They're trying to transfer all the power of FEMA to the executive office, where they will decide who and if someone gets help. What you mean, states that are not friendly toward Trump won't receive help. That's the long and the short of it. You got to kiss Trump's patoot if you want to try and receive disaster relief. That's disgusting. And the vast majority of it is going to fall on the states. Now, I touched upon, I got a guest coming in, my co-host. Let me check and make sure he's not in. I don't want to miss out on him. He is definitely going to be defending against a lot of the things that I'm saying, because in spite of everything that is occurring, he remains a MAGA enthusiast. He's an intelligent man, has his master's degree, is a politician in the bluest state of New York, fighting for the red team, trying to flip it. I have a lot of respect for his intelligence in a lot of different things. But we severely disagree on where this country is headed, why it's headed there, and what can be done about it. So I'm going to move forward with what I was saying. I just was checking to see if he was here as of yet. and I don't see him. When you have a government that's saying that we no longer need green energy, because that's what it is, right? It's green energy, pure, like, renewable energy. Like, if you don't know what green and renewable energy is, what we use right now, or what we've used in the past, is coal. We mined for coal. We used oil. We use resources that depleted, that dried up. Like, you can only dig in the area for so much coal. Eventually, all the coal is going to be gone. You can only drill for oil for so long. Eventually, there's going to be no more oil. It depletes. It runs out. When you're using clean, green, renewable energy, all the things that our current administration frowns upon, you have an energy that can sustain. Let's use an example. What is the sustainable, clean, green energy? The sun, solar, wind. Let's take solar first, though, right? I said solar wind. I mean, let's take solar wind first. The sun is not running. All right, the sun will run out too eventually. In 100,000 years, we won't have a sun anymore. So the sun is not going to last forever. But I think it'll do for now. And when the sun runs out, it won't matter because we'll all be dead anyway. Why would? And by the way, clean, green, renewable energy is far cheaper because once you build a panel, yeah, you have to sustain it, but it works by itself. You don't have to pay people to keep digging. And if you got to keep digging, if you got to keep drilling, these processes are expensive. Multiple man hours that go into this. How can coal, which has to continue, or oil, either way, one has to be drilled, one has to be dug, has to be refined. You can't use it as it comes up the ground. How can something that takes that kind of manpower, those type of resources, possibly compete financially with the sun? We hear Trump talk nonsense about how China doesn't use wind power, doesn't use turbines. They use 25 times more turbines than America does. They're leading the world. China does use more coal and oil than any place else on earth. Due part, in fact, to the fact that they're the largest manufacturers. They're also leading the world in innovation, attempting to lead to a sustainable future with clean energy. They're leading the world in that. Where does the United States fit in right now with Trump trying to take us backwards? Other countries right now, you know what they want? Other countries are seeking clean, green energy. That's what they want. That's what they want. You go to Europe, they're looking for clean energy. You go to anywhere, they're looking for clean energy. If we're going back in time where pollution doesn't exist, carcinogens, the definition of a carcinogen is something that causes cancer. Where carcinogens don't exist or don't have the effects of causing cancer, even though that's the definition of the word, right? If we go back prior to that, what we're doing in this administration, and we no longer have science, for lack of a better word, and we start polluting the air again, what do? You start tearing at the ozone layer again, and now we're back full circle. So now you're polluting, you're causing more unstable temperatures, you're causing the temperature to go up because we're polluting again. That's what Trump wants to do. He wants to use coal and oil. His big bad bill is steeped in first of all, what it does is by the end of the year, it eradicates all subsidies for clean energy, which is the real reason Elon Musk got upset. Okay, segue to Elon, right? So I'm not an Elon fan. Why am I not an Elon fan? All right, first off, Elon made his money because during the 1800s, going into the 1900s, there was something, the 1950s, I believe, there was something developed in South Africa called apartheid. Apartheid was a separation of blacks and whites and developed a slave-like system in South Africa. So you basically had South African slaves. Elon Musk's family left Germany and came to South Africa and took part in the apartheid. His money was money that came from emeralds dug by slaves and stolen from their land. That's how Elon got rich. That's the history of Elon. When he came here to America, he started PayPal. He had money already. He had money from slaves. This isn't something that happened hundreds of years ago. This happened, he left in 1989. 1989. I mean, the civil rights era was over by the 70s. In 1989, he left South Africa with slave money and came here and started investing in businesses. Elon Musk, he did PayPal. He joined a car company that was revolutionary. I didn't say he bought one. I didn't say he started one. He joined one. You know the name. It goes by Tesla. And then he brought the people that started Tesla out. He was able to buy them out because of his slave money. Not a fan. Basically stole. Oh, and let's not forget. Right. See the, you know, and he's one of them. He's, a Nazi. He's a Nazi. Elon Musk grew up with slaves and is now a Nazi. I'm not a fan. All right. The Honorable Dion Powell is about to enter, but I will take even his help to fight against this brutal, terrible, big bad bill. That is how much I despise this bill. The people benefiting from the big bad bill are the wealthy. The group that sat behind Trump during the inauguration, all those tech bros and all that, that's what they call, they're the ones who benefited. The bill benefits the wealthy. They get something like, if you make over $1.4 million a year, you annually, you'll get a $236,000, I believe, tax cut. The bill benefits the wealthy. If you're making less than $50,000 a year, you're going to lose about eight. If you make less than $50,000 a year, you're going to lose about $800 in taxes every year. So the wealthy are getting $234,000 every year, while the people at the bottom are losing $800 a year, or $700. It's between $700 and $800 a year. And I'm not talking about the food stamps. I'm not talking about the Medicaid. I'm not talking about the Medicare. I'm not talking about the fact that Social Security is nowhere mentioned in the big bad bill. I'm referring solely and only to the actual tax cuts that are represented in this tax bill called reconciliation. Anyway, y'all caught me in, the Honorable Dion Powell has walked in the middle of one of my tirades that he is such a fan of. But I have to talk until you get here. It's 9 o'clock. So we're going to get into this. It's just so you know, you're on mute. And thank you. Welcome back, Robert. Good to have you, brother.
That family. I was going to let Leo show how, direct he is with his impartiality towards this bill. And sometimes, as they say in the political game, you just got to let people talk, like the minority leader, Hakeem Jeffries from Brooklyn, with his filibuster. Go ahead, Leo. Back to you. I'm Dion Powell here in the wonderful country of Ghana. I'm a district leader in the Bronx, a part of the Conservative Party, the third party of New York State, behind the Republicans.
Well, welcome to the think tank, where we use critical thinking, deductive reasoning, your common sense to draw unbiased logical conclusions. And as is pointed out, my outtake on this big bad bill, well, it's impartial. I didn't take one side or the other. I read the bill and came to conclusions based on what was actually inside of the bill, not trying to deny what's in the bill, not believing what's in the bill. It's simple. You can go to .gov and actually read for yourself. As a matter of fact, I happen to have the bill pulled up.
I
We are
think
definitely diving into this bill today.
well, we always do, but unfortunately, it seems though we've gone from unbiased to biased opinion of the bill. But okay, keep going.
Well, drawing a conclusion is not bias. It's drawing a conclusion. It's part of the scientific method.
Maybe you should use languages like this bill will cut Medicaid by 20%, not the end of the world speech you're doing. But okay, keep going.
I didn't give the end of the world speech. I have just given numbers. Okay, what are we talking about today? Let's get into this. Don't want to get too far off topic because I know you have a limited amount of time because of the immense time difference between here and Ghana, where I am currently in the northeast and the east under Eastern Standard Time, and there's about a 7 to 8 hour difference, and it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. But Dion came to join us anyway, which I'm very grateful for. Thank you, Dion Powell. Outside of this, we get along on just about everything. We're actually friends. Just this is a travesty.
Is it?
Okay. Okay, so here's the actual numbers. If you make $41 million, if you make $41 million a year, you gain $230,000 in tax breaks. You have to make $41 million a year, and you get $230,000 in tax breaks. To put that in plain English, if you make $230,000 a year, you're in the top 10% anyway. You get top 10% money tax breaks if you're gargantuously rich. But if you make under $51,000 a year, you lose $700. Those are actual numbers.
Oh,
How do you feel about the actual numbers?
well, if you think about it, it's not really going to affect most Americans. Look at the tax bracket you listed. The average citizen, do they fall within those tax brackets?
The average citizen makes less than $51,000 a year.
Okay.
Okay, let's ask Gemini.
I'm a Gemini. You're a Gemini. Trump's a Gemini. We're all Gemini.
Which is why we're going to Gemini, because we love Gemini. What percentage of Americans make less than $51,000 annually? Well, 32% made less, 32%, that's more than a quarter, made less than 49,000 in 2023. So only 30% of Americans, you're right, not the end of the world. In 2022, 50%. Okay, considering individual income, according to Social Security Administration, 68% of individual American workers make less than $50,000. There we go. According to Social Security, this will affect 68% of Americans.
Sorry about that. I'm coming in a little statically. Yeah, Leo. So a lot of people seem to be upset with this big, beautiful bill.
68% of Americans are going to lose $700 a month, so that 0.001% can get $230,000 a year. I can see why people might be upset. Can you?
Yes, I can. Again, we won't see the effects for some time, but yes, let's see what happens between now and then. So for now, we're upset, but once everything goes into effect, let's see how it hits us. We don't know what's going to happen after the fact.
Well, this is signed into law. So we're not talking about abstracts. We're not talking about possibilities. We're not talking about what ifs. This is a bill that Trump literally chased people around who wasn't answering their phones, who was dodging him to get them to sign on to vote for. This is a bill that passed that he put his signature on. He handcocked. This is law. This is what it is. This is not conjecture.
I know, but Leo, I keep trying to remind you. Let's say it's the most worst bill in the human history of the United States of America. You gotta give
It's
the man
not that. It's not actually not that.
right. Oh, excuse
It's
me.
close.
It's after midnight here. Like I was saying, you have to see the process in which this got done and how this man gets things done as the president. And just like Obama with marriage equality, he just bomb, 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 bomb. And it showed his leadership skills. Now that could be a positive spin to put on the situation.
Absolutely. You can put a positive spin on the devil. The devil can come through and make people suffer in fire and brimstone, but you know what? He gets them souls.
Here we go with the unbiased opinion again.
It's not an unbiased opinion. I simply made a comparison. You say, well, he gets things done. I said, so does the devil. So give the devil his due.
Okay, well, if you insist. But still,
Well, that's
a lot of people seem upset now, but now my opinion professionally in the political consulting realm is that we will see how that spills over. Excuse me, so like here into the midterm elections next year in 2026. But so far, if you look at social media, surprisingly, not surprising to me, of course, there's a lot of black people that's, hey, we're okay with this bill. So that's very interesting, don't you think?
well, that's because Donald Trump is very slick. I'm gonna give you an example. I'm gonna give you an example of just how slick this man is. Like, I have a lot of black people saying things like, well, birthright citizenship is not for blacks anymore, right? Which is insane. So let's explain birthright citizenship. The origins of birthright citizenship were in the 1960s during the civil rights era. Birthright citizenship is how slaves and slave descendants
Mhm.
gained the right to be considered Americans. It was the law that was passed. Birthright citizenships were so that blacks could be citizens.
Okay.
So now others have used it to gain citizenship as well. And Trump says, oh, well, it was for blacks. So these people shouldn't be able to use it. Let's take this law away. Did you see what just happened? Did you comprehend what just happened? If the law is taken away, it doesn't just affect immigrants. The law is taken away. The law that makes blacks citizens is taken away. Full
Well,
stop.
okay, Leo, again, Trump is very
And
smart.
this wasn't,
But
I came up with this 2 days ago. I came up with this 2 days ago and I said, oh my God, I must be crazy. No, this can't be real. This has got to be in my head. And then I heard the dissenting argument from the Supreme Justice that went on for 7 pages, 8 pages, saying the exact same thing. From the Supreme Justice, that's what the law. And I came up with this on my own. I'm not no justice, nothing. I came up with this through deductive reasoning and common sense. Then afterwards, I found that the Supreme Court Justice, which is, you know, one of the highest judges, the highest judge you could be in the land, looked at the law and said the same thing. So when you make your response, understand that the highest judges in the country say that that's what the law says. Now I'm listening.
okay, now this goes back to the Constitution with the 14th Amendment. And if I may, share my screen, friend. Let's see if you allow me. Okay, you did. What a nice guy you are.
Only on Tuesdays.
Well, yeah, all right. So this is from the source of whitehouse.gov, my friend. You see it up here? Now, protecting the meaning and value of American citizenship, dated January 20th, around when he's inaugurated. And he goes into the United States Constitution of the 14th Amendment, which states all persons born are naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the states wherein they reside. And this goes back to what? As we used to
Dred
learn in
versus
school,
Scott,
the
which is
Dred
prior to
Scott
the
decision. How many kids in schools know about the Dred Scott decision and Plessy versus Ferguson? I wonder about all those things, right? But the 14th Amendment right here has never been interpreted to extend citizenship universally to everyone born in the United States. The 14th Amendment has always excluded from birthright citizens persons who were born in the United States but not subject to the jurisdiction of. Consistent with the understanding, the Congress has further specified through legislation that a person born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction of is national and citizen of is a national and citizen of the United States at birth, generally mirroring the 14th Amendment. Um, it goes on, categories of citizenship, blah, blah, blah. The policy, blah, blah. Subsections, blah, blah. And the presidents argue point by point by point is that this was designed for foundational Black Americans. And what he's trying to do, some people say divide and conquer, he's trying to basically say like a lot of people have taken this once again, like all things that have been earmarked for Black people in this country has been co-opted and expanded to others that should be having these rights, but lay on the foundations of Black America, as it were. So shout out to President Trump for pointing this out. Now, if it could be implemented to stop the crisis we in of letting in these millions of people under the previous administration in order to deport them, that's what's up in the air right now. But seeing as though a lot of Black America, again, is happy with this announcement.
Okay, so they don't understand. I should be happy because they don't understand. Okay, let's look into this a little deeper. I'm gonna go to Gemini and I'm gonna ask, what is subject to the jurisdiction of actually mean? I can paraphrase, but I'm gonna just read it instead. It means that a person or entity is under the legal authority and control of a particular government or legal system. So if you're following that means you follow the law. That's the paraphrase, right? If you can be controlled by the law, you're subject to you're subject to the jurisdiction of. If you're controlled by the law, that's the meaning of it. If you're controlled by the law, full stop, that's the definition. So let's look a little deeper into this. So the only difference between being born here and being a natural citizen has nothing to do with the color of your skin, obviously, right? Is if you're subject to the jurisdiction of, if you're under the rule of law of the country. So you're telling me that the difference between me and somebody who snuck into the country who was born here is that the other person born here wasn't subject to the jurisdiction of? That's what you're saying? Ludicrous. They're born here. They're subject to the jurisdiction of. It's made up. Or find a different definition that doesn't fit into that. I leave it to you to try and argue that.
Well, again, this is a matter of constitutionality and whose job out of the three branches it is to actually enforce this and interpret it. Guess what? It's the Supreme Court.
And the Supreme Court said that this means that Blacks aren't citizens. I started with that. I led with that.
Okay. This goes back to slavery when Blacks weren't as equal citizens as whites. That's why you went back to the Dred Scott decision, Plessy versus Ferguson, Brown versus Board of Education, things that me and you were programmed to learn in school, which I question if public schools still teaching or if they are retaining it as students as such. And that's about it.
And I understand that you said that people are supposed to learn in school. I'm going to go to something I learned in school. It's called cognitive dissonance. Okay. So you train somebody to believe something when they're young, and even when they get older, if they believe it at a certain age, generally the formative years, so between the ages of like 3 and 5 and 10 and 12, formative years those are the years mentioned in psychology for formative years. If you could drill something into somebody's brains in these ages, and maybe it's 9 and 11, I don't know the exact age, it's been about a decade in psychology. But if you can drill something into somebody's head at these ages, then later in life, they when you present them with evidence of it not being true, they have a hard time taking new information in that argues with things that they truly believe to exist, even if those things are not logical or making sense. It's called cognitive dissonance. And I just read to you what subject to the jurisdiction of means. What it means is that you have to obey the law of the land. So that makes me no different than any immigrant here, because we all have to obey the law of the land. So that's not a separation between us and them. There's no separation. If you take away birthright citizenship, you're taking away birthright citizenship. Subject to the jurisdiction of was just a farce that was utilized in order to make blacks relax as he made his moves. It's not a real thing.
Obviously, this goes back to Donald Trump. I'm glad you clicked the dots back to Trump eventually, because I guess people would kind of lose their interest. But yes, go ahead, Leo.
That's it. There's nothing left. That's it. I mean, go back to what? That's it. It's really, it's pretty scary. Blacks, according to the Supreme Court, due to this ruling, are no longer have citizen protection. You can now ship blacks out of the country as non-citizens. And okay, so now we got to go a little deeper in. I didn't want to get into this early, but we're going to explain it all the way out. So the tool that he levied in order to be able to completely destroy it, birthright citizenship, is called nationwide injunction. Some big words, like nationwide injunction. So I'm gonna break it down real simple. Nationwide means the entire country, right? Injunction means being able to wait. I want to get this exactly right. Matter of fact,
you're gonna share
because I want to
screen?
get it right. I don't want no mistakes. We're going back to Gemini. No, we're going to get this exactly right. Boom. Injunction. A judicial order that restrains a person from beginning or continuing an action threatening or invading the legal right of another, or that compels a person to carry out this is the one I know, or that compels a person to carry out a certain act. So an injunction means you have to, it's a rule that you have to do something, right? So what I just read. So a nationwide injunction means that if a court decides something and that's what it is, everybody got to do it because that's what the court said. And what Trump did was he said, no. He went to the Supreme Court and they ruled that all judges can't do that. All judges can't say this is the law. You said that's the law, that's for your case. But you can go to the next town over, somebody fighting the exact same case can lose because the law of the land is not made in the courts anymore unless it comes from the Supreme Court. And what that means is, while I might be able to afford a lawyer and be like, nah, I can stay here, and I got a good lawyer, right? The person over in New York might not be able to afford a lawyer, and even though we have the exact same background, it could be my brother, and he can't afford a lawyer, and he could be deported. Same parents, brother. That's what destroying a nationwide injunction, that's literally what destroying the nationwide injunction means. It means that the court's decision doesn't apply to everybody. So now, go back to, what did you say, Stanford versus, which one was it?
Plessy versus Ferguson. It was
no, that's the wrong one.
Like saying the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Unfortunately, my question is this more important of value, which is, do kids these days really know these things?
Do they need to know what? The laws that Trump's not following anyway? Why learn it if it's not going to be applied? What's the difference now?
If they can't learn the basics, like me and you, the foundation of actually DEI, if you think about it, the 14th Amendment, plus versus Ferguson, Brown versus Board of Education, then what are we talking about here? And we should also get into social emotional learning, hashtag school choice, but we're obsessed with that Donald Trump.
Well, we're obsessed with a bill that's going to kill millions of people. This is
not
Donald Trump's
opinion. We're back to it's going to kill millions of people.
It's not bias. It's, I mean, all right. So my bias is based on being able to read. I'm I'm able to read. Matter of fact, we had other people. Let's take Steve Schmidt, ex-Republican under Ronald Reagan.
Okay.
He said that there were like 5 major pieces of legislation in the history of this country that encompassed as much as this bill. He said there's one major difference between this bill and others. While the other pieces of legislation spread opportunity, established justice, connected the nation, and built the American middle class, Trump's bill will build a massive police surveillance state. They don't get no more Republican than Schmidt. So,
well, it depends, Leo. I'm not a Republican. That's the first thing these people need to understand in the chat is that I'm part of the third party, the third party in New York State, because Republicans have so much stigma and problems here. It's ridiculous and beyond. It's that there are different types of Republicans. A lot of people should know this. There's rhinos, there's the old school Republicans like this, there's MAGA Republicans, and there's just their mild mannered, I'm a Republican on paper just for the sake of being a Republican. So again, just like the Republicans that supported George W.'s war in Iraq and Afghanistan, there is going to be a dissent of opinion amongst the different generations. So this makes sense.
I'm going to get to some of these comments, then I'll get back to you.
Yeah,
okay.
I see a lot of chatter in our chat, which is beautiful. We have 5 figures, thanks to you, beautiful fans of subscribers. And a lot of mainstream YouTubers, I will add my observation, hasn't gotten this far so soon. Thanks to Leo and his soft touch marketing. No diddy.
Oh, Emily, thanks for coming back. Good to see you again. Yeah, Elon is everywhere. Speaking of third parties, like our conservative friend here, he wants to start a third party, but he wants it to be a nationwide third party, which means he's going to have to go into multiple states. It can be done, as Dion has proven, by being a conservative member. Who needs rain when you've got rockets? Yeah, well, Trump's trying to take that away from him. And I appreciate that, Charlotte. I'm going to do my best to work with Dion and continue to provide, hopefully, things that you enjoy. And thank you for being a part of the creative thinking. Wow, I can't even. Gosh,
Well,
it's not
let's
coming to me
just
to say
say we're
that.
going to continue to try to provide quality entertainment, or as we used to say in college, edutainment, educational entertainment.
The critical thinking community, though, the will we come together and try and figure out, because eventually what we got to do is we got to figure out what we can do as a people to make things better. That's got to be our goal. That's the goal of a think tank, how you improve life. And right now we're studying it.
The goal of a think tank depends on the subject matter, and like all things, it can be used for great good or great evil.
That's
So
true.
think about it.
Elon does great things, but he's not a policy expert. Elon does do some amazing things, but
Yes. Before he got down with Trump, he did so many major things. Everybody loved him. But once he got down with Trump and say, you know what, I'm gonna make Twitter now X open to the public, do whatever they say what they want, free speech, that's when he didn't do anything great. Think about it.
I think that when
Oh
he
God.
revealed himself to be a Nazi,
Kleinfeld.
I think when he revealed himself to be a Nazi, can you imagine no tornado warnings? Right. Okay. So before this started, we was talking about that. I'll delve into that. National weather system isn't perfect, but it's a way better than no service. Woo! All right. Let's talk about that for a second, real quick. The National Weather Service. So one of the things that this bill did, well, Elon Musk started it, right? Elon Musk and Doge defunded the NWS, National Weather Service. That is immense. A lot of people don't understand how powerful that is. Defunding the National Weather Service is why right now, when you wake up tomorrow, you don't know if it's raining because the weather's been wrong all summer. Like, yo, they be saying it's not gonna rain, and it rain, and they say it's gonna be nice outside. I'm sorry.
Same thing here in Ghana. It's like Google weather, whatever it's doing, it's not really reporting accurately anymore.
Well, the terrible, terrible, terrible accuracy that we've no longer have. I mean, last year, this year's been crazy. I was actually hit with a tornado that they reported 2 hours after it was over. Like we lost like internet and it's a tornado.
At least you didn't wake up in the land of Oz. How's that sound?
I was outside with my daughter when I didn't have to be.
Oh, okay, well,
So it's these not getting warnings. Like there was an incident. I think it was in Texas where there was some kids that was outside. They were out camping or something like that, and everyone didn't make it. And he turned around and said, "Why didn't the National Weather Service warn us there was going to be floods?" This is going on right now as we speak. Over 70 people are not here because the National Weather Service couldn't warn them because they were defunded and lost 20% of their staff. 20%. So, like, watch this. For those of you who don't love math, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. So you take away 120 and you have 20, 40, 60, 80. So 1 in every 5 people were taken off the job by Doge, which is why the National Weather Service can't tell you what the weather's going to be. And on top of that, they got rid of the top guy that was in charge of predicting the weather. So the man that was in charge of the entire system, they got rid of him too. That's why we don't know if it's going to rain or be sunny tomorrow. Doge, Trump and Doge. And if it ended there, that would be terrible. But we already lost 21 children are not here right this second because of those cuts. Right now. Happened this weekend. In Texas. And of course it would be in a red state. And even they're like, why did the National Weather Service warn us? And you know what Trump wants to respond? How great the big beautiful bill is. No, I'm not a fan.
well, I didn't know it was that deep when it comes to Weather Channel, but okay.
They weren't warned of the flood. Like I wasn't warned of the tornado. Thankfully, I was able to sit it out in my car. They was out camping. They all are no longer here. It's that deep. People are dying. Hospitals are closing. It's that deep. All right. Elon stands about to be mad Elon stands about to be mad. Oh, somebody knew what's coming. It's not foundational anymore if the law isn't being followed. And that's the truth. All right, that was it for the chats. Where were we? I just had to address that National Weather Services. The National Weather Service, like over 20 kids are not here no more. It's not something that can be joked about or laughed about. And I'm not counting all of the people that were supervised. Over 70 people.
Well, the thing is, how do we move past this? As they say, how do we move past this?
Well, you probably want to try and send in somebody that can help. What about FEMA? Oh, we're trying to move all of that onto the state. FEMA's not going to be helping anybody anymore. And then if they do get support, FEMA won't be the ones to do it. Donald Trump decides who gets it. But they're trying to pass all of the aid for national emergencies onto the states so that each state has to handle their own national emergency. Right at the beginning of hurricane season, where I got hit with a tornado and Texas got hit with a flood. Well, guess we got to rely on FEMA until they're completely dismantled by the end of the year.
Well, again, the federal government is, well, I gotta say this administration is cutting a lot of fat.
A lot of fat. So that's what you consider as fat?
Well, FEMA, again, like I said, was a payday for a lot of people. And then back to North Carolina under the previous administration. We all hopefully remember, because the media won't remind you, how FEMA and funding of this caliber can be used for political means. Just like Hurricane Katrina, Black people, the same thing. So now the president saying, you know what, enough is enough locally. Time for everything to just go under my auspice and streamline that. That's the way I see it. I could be wrong.
It seems to me that the way he taxes political enemies, can we agree that he attacks his political enemies?
No. How did he attack his political enemies with FEMA?
Well, the court seemed to have agreed on it. That's why we had this last win when the law firm was established that the law firm could not have an executive order placed on them specifically because Trump didn't like them, or like the poor man who wrote the book who has an executive order written specifically about him. Where is that coming from? I apologize. I'm probably the only one that hears that. Obviously, there's something going on. I don't know from
Are you
where.
sharing the screen? Remember, you can share sound by itself. If you share the screen, in that little left-hand corner, it says share volume. Share.
I'm not sharing a screen. I just was hearing something in my headphones. But
Okay. Right.
thank you. All right. This is the largest snap cut in the history of the country.
Human history.
In the history, I don't know about human history. Snap is probably
Sure, yeah,
only
snap
started in
is
this
history.
country, so we could probably go with human history. So billionaires are getting 270, or what is it, $230,000 a year each. They're cutting food stamps to people that can't afford to eat. Do you
What?
think that that's an unfair judgment of this bill and Donald Trump and his regime?
What the problem is in this kind of public assistance, as it were, which people feel entitled to, this, that, and the third, is that there's always this game every fiscal cycle to cut these things. That's number one. Then the problem is the government comes in and wants to be the moral compass of the country, saying that people should work. And we need to phase out these programs in order to force people to do the right thing and work and be productive citizens. The issue is that there is a disconnect between the government supplying and providing, and people become dependent, and the transition to wean off people from this generational system of SNAP benefits. So to pull the carpet from under people like this so suddenly, it's not going to be good because there's no clear transition. Because the mindset cannot be influenced like that from the government, and nor do you want it to be.
So if you have people that are busting their behinds, working 60, 70-hour, 80-hour weeks that rely on food stamps to survive, and you pull it away from them, what do you think is going to be the outcome?
Well, you see, that's the thing, Leo. That's not really, in my estimation, the intent of this bill. This bill, if you
I
want to
didn't
say
ask you about the intent.
what the intent of the
I
law,
asked you what's going to happen is
you
the
are
people
taking
that
these your people and just saying, "Hey, what about this?" But what about everybody else who's just been gaming the system? You don't talk about those people gaming the system.
the amount of money given away to these ultra rich people is, if they paid their fair share taxes, if they paid their fair share of taxes, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Actually, we might
They
be
are
because
ballooning the national debt by $5 trillion
so we're gonna talk about them
to
on
give
Snap.
the
What you want
tax
to do?
break to give tax breaks to the ultra wealthy, and we're sitting here wondering why they can't afford food stamps.
Okay, you're trying to use the what's the social emotional learning of one thing being a cause of the other. When actuality, I want to stick to the main issue, which is the point of this piece of the bill, which Republicans for a long time been trying to do to public assistance and SNAP, which is under the Department of Agriculture. Let's not forget that. And the N is SNAP. What? Kennedy stands for nutrition. So we're not going to be paying for candies and sodas. Anyway, the point is this. The intent of this, if you want to talk about political enemies, is that it's targeting to a population of the country that has gamed the SNAP system in order to coerce them into working as opposed to, getting it free from the government. That's what I'm saying.
So they
And
game the
that
system
particular
by getting
area,
$6 a
wait,
meal.
hold it. You see, this decision you're saying is one thing, where if you're in a hood like me and you, is another in practicality. What I'm saying is that the case scenario that you're putting here, that's actually something that, a migrant family might do if they got SNAP. They may team up and still try to have SNAP, but still have job after job after job in order to get that free income of food while cutting out that expense and getting revenue from other areas. Just like another black family from the call to them that are married. Do you know that married couples, they can't really qualify for these fringe benefits? Isn't that interesting? Whereas if you are a single parent, not you or anybody else, but you still can get these perks and still double dick, have your cake and eat it too. But the Republicans are trying to end that. Understand? Or
That's not
have,
true.
brother.
Well, let me get to these comments right quick. It's not foundational anymore if the law isn't being followed. Give these people their jobs back. If we gave the NWS their jobs back, you would save lives. That is logical. how people unalive because of these cuts. Yeah, people unalive because, thank you, they're unalive. I've got to remember to use that because that's because of the NWS cuts. That's a fact. You, I don't know where it's coming from. Oh, so the sound. People who do work are getting cut off too. Yes, that too is a fact. It's not the intent. What's happening, right? So it's not the intent to cut people off of food stamps. But when you're cutting $3 trillion with a T, I don't know, $3 trillion. Everybody's not going to be waste, fraud, and abuse. Vast majority are probably not. You're going to cut tens of millions of people off. Tens of millions of people are not doing waste, fraud, and abuse. You're going to hurt regular people. Tens of millions of people are not waste, fraud, and abuse. That's simply ridiculous.
Well, you bring up a good point that this big, beautiful bill, one big, beautiful bill, is going to affect the majority of America. How's that sound?
No, it's going to affect everybody.
Okay,
The majority of America is
big,
going to suffer, but it's going to affect it. When 68% of people are going to get hit, 68%, and then you got the ultra rich, that's 0.001%, they're going to feel it. And then you have the guys in between. So you got about 31%, let's say. When hospitals close, when nursing homes close, 25% of them are going to close. When these things happen, and they already started happening, this isn't conjecture, hospitals are closing. When these things happen, everybody's affected. Maybe you make $200,000 a year and you send your mom to the nursing home, but the nursing home makes 40% of its money off of Medicaid and Medicare. That 40% dip off, the nursing home closes. I don't care that you got $200,000 a year. Your mother can't stay in that nursing home anymore because the nursing home closed. Everybody's affected. When you cut off, what was it, 7 billion people? $7 billion in SNAP. That's money that doesn't go to the farmers. Farmers are hurt. They starving. They can't afford to keep up their farms. The farms close. It reduces the amount of food in America. Food reduction. Anybody knows anything about economics, there's less food, then what's left is going to cost more. The prices go up. It affects everybody. And what happens when you got hungry, sick people in the street? What do you think is going to happen then?
crime is going to increase.
Probably. When
Well,
you have poverty, you have crime.
Well, 4th of July weekend just passed, and crime and mass shootings at the cookout it did happen. So,
Well, I mean, the price of barbecuing went up, but nah, this is nothing. You ain't seen it yet. You ain't seen it yet. So it appears that Trump is getting closer and closer with Putin. Are you happy about that?
um, let's just say I'm happy that they're talking. Yes,
What if
and on
somebody
top of
said to you,
that, remember if you want to do specifically, current news, Putin actually stepped away from a live interview just to take the president's call. Did you read that part? And that's how much sway our president has over Putin. So let's talk about that too.
some might say that during Trump's first term, we told y'all he was in bed together. So nobody's surprised. Some might say.
Well, the thing is, again, Leo, if they were making out behind the scenes in the first administration and there was peace, and they could start making out behind the scenes in the second administration and there's world peace and no conflict and wars, most Americans like me, it's like, don't care.
Well, unfortunately, that's not what's happening. What's actually happening is Ukraine is getting bombarded. Trump has pulled away all support from them. He's lifting
Good,
sanctions on Russia. He's basically
good.
helping Russia take Ukraine. That's what's happening.
Well, guess what? We were helping Ukraine fight Russia, and people were dying. We had American soldiers over there, our funding was there, and our weaponry was there. Now that those three things are stopping, American soldiers, weaponry, and funding, once again, I'm happy that the president and Putin are getting back together and making up and talking instead of fighting.
Well, some people might say that this was the plan all along. Nothing
Oh,
has really changed except for in public. And we told y'all this was going to happen during his first administration because that's why Putin was helping Trump get into office. Because
that
some
was
people might
debunked.
say,
That's a lie. That is a lie. Russiagate and the rest of the stuff, that was one big lie at the end. It was
okay, so we just happened to be lucky and tell you what was going to happen in the future because we saw what was going on then. We saw what was happening and told you the
it
future,
hasn't been
and we was just
proven.
using our psychic powers.
Just like CBS and the rest of the guys had to pay Trump for lying on him with
It's not
these
why they paid Trump.
facts that are fake news, that didn't happen. Russia and Trump did not collude to win the 2016 election. That's a fact. And a waste of people's time, efforts, and tax dollars investigating such to make the land look bad. But it only made him look better because he was right. Just like his taxes. Remember, we had to find Trump's taxes. And then when we found Trump's taxes, it was all about nothing. Time and time again, you're trying to
What
get
do you
this.
mean it was all about nothing?
Well, what happened? Tell us what happened when we've tried to shake down this man's
He
taxes the
got a
first time.
felony? I don't know.
For taxes, nothing happened. Leo, nothing.
He got a felony. What are you talking about?
From taxes? From tax evasion.
From not paying. So he got the felony because he was lying about the value of his properties.
No, that's something
All of that,
separate, Leo. Listen.
you couldn't prove how much how do you think they proved what the value of the properties were? How do you think that was determined?
Let's see. Trump, taxes, felony. Dear Internet, what's going on here? All right, 2022. Trump organization found guilty of tax.
Any more questions? Like
Tax fraud. But I don't think that's a felony though. Nobody was
tax
let's see.
fraud's not a felony of what?
Let's see.
Ladies and gentlemen, we yeah, who? Oh, I got a headache. Okay, all right.
I must have missed this. So this is in 2022. Oh yes, under the
What did you think? What did you think the whole thing was about? Why do you think it was hiding? Listen, the way you figure out the value of something is you have to in real estate is you have to figure out how much money it's bringing in. I mean, if commercial property, if you're doing it based on a commercial property, you have to figure out how much money it's bringing in because the more money it brings in, the more it's worth, the more value it has. So in order for him to say that he wasn't making, in order for him to say that it wasn't worth as much as it was worth, he had to be lying about how much it was coming in, which means he was lying on his taxes to the IRS, to the feds. It's a tax fraud. It's tax. He should be in jail.
Unfortunately, he
But
has presidential immunity, I guess.
it doesn't change it. Well, right. Yes. The Supreme Court with another one of its ridiculous fallacies.
How's it
He was in
fallacy?
bed. He was in bed with Trump, man. I don't know how you don't see
Long
that, but
story short, it's better to be in bed with Putin than have all these wars going on and
the
enable
wars
a
are still
country.
going on. He just got into office
That's
because
not his.
Putin. It was
That's
been
not his.
proven that Russia interfered with the elections. Can we agree on that?
Sure, but guess what? It has not been proven that Trump and Putin colluded to make it happen together. And also, America also influences other countries' elections as well. And on top of that, Hillary the Clinton, remember her and her emails? So let me explain to you what really happened, how Russia stole the election, if we can segue into that. Russia helped steal the election for Donald Trump by pushing out so much propaganda on this internet about Hillary Clinton and her emails, all those wonderful things, and Trump. It swayed public opinion one way to vote for Trump. But if you think about it, if the reverse backfired this cycle in 2024, where the mainstream legacy media try to put so much anti-Trump propaganda that it just emboldened people to vote for him because they just didn't believe the mainstream media, which is continuing focusing hatred and lies on Donald Trump. That's why that interview with Kamala Harris going south is so important because that's just an actual tip of the iceberg of how the media tried to manipulate polls and surveys and public opinion to nowhere. So,
A lot of what you said is true,
thank you.
but there were some parts that are not accurate.
Hit me with it. Let's see what the audience, studio audience says over here.
You said something about everybody was lying on Trump. What
Okay.
is the studio? Let's tap into that right quick. I'll get back. It's not. It's going to affect everyone, including the ultra rich. They need to pay more to travel to get to get the care regardless. Right.
Chrissy
Right.
J at it again.
Yeah, Chrissy J's got our back, right? All right. I don't know what the 34 is. Could you explain or 34 what that is?
Wait a minute,
No, it
34.
hasn't begun yet. It's going to really start kicking into effect at the end of the year, especially by the end of 2026. They're
I
trying to
think she's
do it in
talking
such
about
a
the 34 counts. That made up Trump charges for Trump. Get it?
that man. ugh. So clean energy. Coal is getting in the form of subsidies from this wonderful bill that you're in love with so much.
It's not
700
loving it. It's not perfect. So
$700 billion a year while they're cutting off all subsidies for clean energy. With that being said, this country is pushing us into the largest pollution that we've had in maybe since the Industrial Revolution. We're back to the Industrial Revolution. That's what it is. Cutting subsidies to clean energy means they're cutting out clean energy, and he wants to rely on the most expensive energy there is, and that's coal and oil.
that we're producing here in this country instead of relying foreign and abroad.
That's not true at all. What are you talking about? As you've pointed out in prior episodes, we can't refine our oil, so we get our oil from overseas. So that's not
You
true.
said that, not me. You broke it down what refining oil was and
Oh,
purifying it. That was
oh, it's
you.
true. Well,
Nice
and
try.
clean coal is a
Here we
joke.
go again.
So
Clean coal. Go ahead, Leo.
there's nothing that it's unsustainable. You can't tell me you believe that it's actually cheaper to dig for oil, I'm sorry, to dig for coal and to drill for oil than it is to build solar panels. You build a solar panel, you throw it on top of your house, you got to repair it once in a while. You dig for oil, you dig for coal, and you drill for oil. This is a manned operation that's got to go in forever. Like it doesn't end. How do you compete in prices? So you're increasing pollution, making people sicker, destroying the ozone layer, and costing people more in energy. How do you rectify that? How do you get with that?
Well, if you look at solar panels and the pollution they
Exactly, Greasy J.
cause, if you look at solar panels and the pollution they cause from the inception to finish, maybe that's something you should also add on to that. Now, when it comes to coal, the point that the president, I believe, is trying to make with coal and oil is that it's creating jobs here and staying certain jobs, union jobs here that we've had as a lifestyle. Just like Motown back in Detroit, making all those cars with a certain sector of industry that is a part of the American, tapestry, as it were. So that's the way I see that in certain states.
Even though we just said that oil's important, it says creating jobs here. Like the clean energy didn't create jobs.
I don't know about
Ridiculous.
that.
You don't know that clean energy created jobs?
Yeah, actually, no, I think it did because the
Oh,
whole
oh.
climate. Okay, I could be wrong, and maybe I am wrong, but remember what I said about the climate justice industry, in which they make a lot of money of these environmental issues, like climate change. Oh, excuse me, it's catching through the internet. There you go, family.
China has invested
Kind of.
25 times more in solar than the US. They are the biggest pollutants in the world, but they've invested 25 times more than the US in solar energy. So they're trying to clean up their act while the US, under our current administration, is trying to put us back into the Industrial Revolution because that's when America was great, I guess.
So basically, Trump should be in bed with China instead of Russia, huh? Is that what you want?
No, we should be trying to compete with China instead of taking us back to the Middle Ages.
That's what the tariff war was all about, my friend.
The tariffs are not hurting anybody but Americans. Other countries are now forming bonds, they're forming friendships, they're forming trade agreements, and the US is being cut out. And we don't have what it takes in this country to manufacture everything. We just simply don't have all the resources we need. This is damaging our credibility worldwide. You have the bond market, which I've explained on previous episodes, but I'm going to dabble into real quick once again. So when the US doesn't have enough money for something, they borrow money, they take a loan. That loan is called a bond. Other countries will buy that bond, they'll give us the loan because they're going to get back a yield. They're going to get back the yield is interest. So they give us a loan, they get back interest. Our bonds are becoming worthless because the United States is showing that we can't pay our bills. That's what happens when your credit rating goes down, when it like it did for the first time in the history of this country under President Donald J. Trump.
Okay.
We are unable to pay our bills, and it's getting worse. This bill adds $5 trillion to the debt. This is going to make our bonds worth less. That's going to make interest go up. And when interest goes up for the country, guess who pays it? You pay it when you want to buy a car. You pay it when you want to pay your utilities. You pay it when you want to pay your mortgage. Interest rates are going to go up for us because of this bill, because of this tax breaks to the rich.
Well, again, as the saying goes, we shall see. Exactly. The bill just passed, Leo. July 4th was what? Thursday, I think it was. Or was it Friday? When was July
Right.
4th?
It's written into law, and you're like, oh well, we'll see. That's like the
Do you
stove is
report how
hot.
many good things happened on July 4th? You report on those
The stove
things?
is hot. The stove is hot. I burnt myself. I told you the stove was hot.
Again, we will see the results of this in the midterms. But between now and then, we're trying to get adjusted to the big, beautiful bill. Understand?
You're worried about the midterms, and I'm more concerned about the people that are already losing their lives, the hospitals that are already closing down, like the things that are happening in current events,
Okay.
not conjecture, current events. The other C. All right. So we've gone over that there's going to be 80 million in SNAP cuts. That's what the number is. 80 million. So you're telling me there's 80 million in waste, fraud, and abuse in the supplemental nutrition and I don't remember what SNAP is in
Program.
EBT. Oh,
Supplemental nutrition, whatever program. The answer is yes, Leo. And that goes back to Medicaid, where the president said, hey, these benefits are not for illegal aliens. However, the states are using their budgets to do what? Give it to who? In addition to everybody else, illegal aliens. So now to purge that problem, it's time to, as they say, tighten the belt.
tighten the belt by increasing the national debt by $5 trillion and giving
We were just
$234,000
talking
a
about
year to the
SNAP. Now
ultra
you want to
rich.
change about something else.
No, but
We're
that's what's
talking about
happening.
SNAP.
Why you're telling me
We're
we
talking
have
about
to
SNAP.
tighten? Why you're telling me we have to tighten our belts? In the same bill that you're telling me we need to tighten our belts, we're adding $5 trillion in debt and giving $234,000 a year to each of the richest people in the country. This is in the same bill that you're telling me we got to tighten our belts.
Yeah, exactly. Because you asked me a question about SNAP, and when I gave you a direct answer as to why this is happening, you tacked more onto the question as I went along. How's that work?
It's all because it's all in one bill. I'm not talking about SNAP but in
You were
a
talking about
silo.
SNAP.
I'm not talking about SNAP in a silo. I'm talking about the bill.
Oh my God.
I'm talking about the bill. And within that bill, all of these things are true. $5 trillion in debt, $234,000 a year to the richest people in the country, people that can afford to throw $50 million weddings, SNAP
But
being cut,
you
Medicaid being
thought
cut. All of this is in the bill.
I
All
understand
of this
that,
is
but
in the
you
bill.
want to focus on the SNAP aspect, and I'm explaining to you why I'm actually happy with the cut of SNAP because it was best, I shouldn't say specifically, but one of the issues with SNAP was that it was going to people that didn't have a right to have it and taken away from people like me, you, and our families that actually depend on it. Understand? And also was talked about earlier, in which the government again is trying to get people not to be dependent on the government or removing it. Like I said before, that may not be a good thing, like pulling the carpet from under them, because there is no clear mental transition of how to get off SNAP and actually get a situation in which you would buy your own food. That's how I feel about the SNAP question. Now, everything else, economics, I have a hard time defending, but that's not where I'm really here. I'm just here to promote the American First agenda, like why we shouldn't be in Israel and freaking Gaza right now, and freaking whatchamacallit, Iran, and some of those other things. And that's also something to do in which I think this whole Iran, just like Russiagate, is just one big smokes and mirrors for the American people that we always have to be involved with a military complex. So
I get it. The Trump administration is becoming more and more indefensible. So you might have to narrow your scope to being
I
able to
guess
talk
that is
about
a
the
good
very few
answer.
things that you can. I
That's a very
understand.
good answer. But the thing is, if you go to report on the bad, you should also report unbiasedly, if that's a word, on the good. So give us some in the session with some good news that's going on with the administration.
We haven't touched on all of the
July
bad things
4th
that's
was such
going
a
on yet.
successful event that everybody felt involved and included. Man, Trump threw a massive cookout on the lawn of the White House. Isn't that great? Boy, hey, Trump wants to add UFC to the anniversary over there. You want to talk about how good that is?
He threw a big barbecue to celebrate killing millions of Americans. I'm so happy about that.
God damn it.
That's what he did. Listen, what is he doing? Boom, 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 boom. I got a kid trying to finish school, right? So what happened? There's more more limits on student plus loan plans. It's harder to get a student plus loan. That's for people who can't get traditional loans. It terminates student repayment plans. Wow, terminating student repayment plans. You got to come up with 10% of your tuition. So now you got to pay 10% up front. If there's a 2-year lapse in payment, if you go through a hardship, like before you could just be like, I'm going through a hardship and you can get a pause on it. Now you're just becoming eligible for the next 10 years. These are these. Meanwhile, $234,000 to everybody that's wealthy.
Well, again, under the previous administration with student loan forgiveness, that was well and good. Even myself felt great. Wow. To actually clean up my student loan debt. And then bam, it was one big lie. When the new administration came back, that all came back into focus. But again, Leo, higher education with these student loans, just like having credit cards on campus, is something that a lot of people are fooled on with this advanced education. Now, everybody can't afford to have those fancy pieces of paper that's behind you, but still, even as a father, my question to you is this: you don't have to disclose it or not. Did you, with your daughter's financial aid paperwork, have to put your income on there as well?
I did.
All right. So don't you feel that the focus should be on parents like you in the financial aid process in which your salaries are taken consideration for these loans for your daughter to go to school? Theoretically, just a broad brush about parents. You think that's fair?
What does that have to do with anything that I just said? With all of this stuff that they're doing, that has nothing to
Because,
do with it.
because, listen, because in order to receive financial assistance, your daughter has to fall back on your salary on her
I didn't
record.
say anything about financial assistance. What I
These
said was
loans,
student loans.
right,
I
student
said
loans, they're going for
repayment
college.
plans. That a loan is not a financial assistance. Assistance means
Listen,
you ain't got to.
why would somebody have to take out a loan? Obviously, your salary is saying that, hey, your daughter can't be eligible for the grant programs to supplement her education, higher education, rather. That's what
I
I'm
didn't
saying.
mention
Unless,
Pell. I didn't
unless, it,
mention Pell. I didn't mention the five
unless,
thousand dollars. I didn't mention the fact they're taking Pell
unless,
away.
unless your daughter's going to college off the strength of herself, that's when loans probably would be a bigger priority. But seeing as though your finances are in the equation of her taking out that loan, don't you think that should be addressed?
What does that have to do with anything that I just said? You're bringing
I'm
up something that,
connecting student loans to parents' incomes
but
that
this
the
doesn't connect it to parents' incomes. Oh, okay. The student plus loans, it does. The student plus loans, I mean, you're taking away opportunity. I don't know why.
Of course I am.
Listen,
Me, be on.
so who takes the loan out? The parent or the kid?
Well, it depends.
Who
Sometimes
takes the
parents
loan
take a
out? The
loan.
parent or the kid?
I think the kid takes out a loan, right? It's under their
So
name,
then why
yeah.
are you talking about the parents? We're talking about
Because the
they're talking about
parent's
the fact
salary,
we're talking about the fact they're reducing the eligibility for the kids, and you're like, oh, but what about the parents? The parents ain't got nothing to do with the conversation.
and that's a big part of the problem when it comes to student loans, don't you think? That it's left up to young people to make these big financial decisions that will affect them long term. Just like when they used
That
to
has
have credit
nothing
cards.
to do with this bill. You're
All right,
bringing
fine.
things up that are irrelevant. It has
All right, fine.
nothing to do with this
I'm
bill.
deflecting again. Sorry.
Nothing. It This is reducing opportunity for people that are under a certain tax bracket that have to rely on getting loans. Like, I don't know, if I want to buy a house, I can't buy it in cash. I got to get a loan for that too. Believe me. Well, maybe. Well, the average person has to take a loan out to buy a house. The average person is not going to have that kind of money sitting around.
Okay.
So you want to talk about their parents too?
Again,
No, because
when you
it's
take out a
ridiculous.
loan, wait, when you take out a loan, Leo, let's say you take out a loan, even with credit, sometimes you need somebody else to sign off on that loan. Would you agree? Hey, Dion, can you help me sign off on this loan because you have good credit? Sure, why not, Leo? You're a friend. So this is where other people come into play, Leo. Unless I'm financially wrong, because economics is my strong suit, but sometimes you got to get somebody else to sign on to your loan. Isn't that correct? No?
If you, if you're, okay, forgive me, ladies and gentlemen. This took me for a loop. Let me explain something to a friend of mine. If
Yeah.
you have people that you're willing to co-sign on a house for,
Okay.
me and you have to have a conversation off camera because you're really more financially inept than
I'm
I
literally.
imagined.
There, go let me have it. Then there you have it when it comes to loans. So let's move on to another topic that these people probably want to hear about, which is how great President Trump is doing. Keep going.
The car deductions. If you have, they put these deductions up for cars, right? Great stuff. If your car's not $101,000, you're not gonna get all of that $10,000. You have to spend $101,000 to get a $10,000 deduction. So if you spend $101,000, that means your car was only $90,000 if you bought it from the US of A. So if you're not spending $90,000 on a car, that car deduction thing is not for you. Isn't that wonderful?
There you have it. Is it American-made cars, Leo? Did you forget that part, or is it foreign-made cars?
I did not forget that part. I did not actually. I said for American-made cars,
Okay.
hundred and for you spend you have to spend over $100,000 to get the deduction, the full deduction, which means the deduction is not for the average person. I believe that we can agree on that.
Okay.
Okay. There was something I wanted to bring up. Where is it? I don't see it. It'll come back. What else? Oh, what else do we have to discuss here? Because there's so much. And I know you have a limited time. The National Rifle Association is not even happy with this bill. They're ready to sue over this bill because of the National Firearms Act that's being ignored by Donald Trump. So even the National Firearms Association is upset about this bill. Can you imagine that? The National Firearms Association is suing against this. Can you imagine that?
Well, for my research, I did look into this very interesting because being a Second Amendment or two-way Trump supporter, or just in general on this side, is very important because you can't have the First Amendment without the Second. That's their argument. And to my understanding, this is removing a lot of tax taxes from people that do deal with firearms. So that may be an issue for the National Rifle Association, but for other local, let's say, firearm organizations, it's actually a good thing because it's taking taxes away from people that want to get their guns.
So he is once again pissing on the people that put him in office.
Oh, of course. And I just gave you an example of people that are actually happy with it, as opposed to people
You
that's
gave me the
thinking,
people that were happy with it, but the people that supported him was the National Rifle Association.
the same
They
people
were
for 2 years
loud
support.
supporting him.
Listen, there's a division here. Both those people that are for this and people who are against it under the 2A, I love my guns, it's a fracture, meaning some support and some don't. So that's a good thing, in my opinion.
The people that supported him, the National Rifle Association, are getting pissed on. There are some people that's happy about it that are part of the organization, but the actual organization itself was big in supporting Donald Trump. The actual, not the people in the organization, the entity itself was big on supporting
Yes,
Trump.
just like other special interest groups. There are some unions that supported Trump, but their members weren't happy. There were some unions who stood out of the
Like the
election.
construction union who's at war, like ready to go to war because they're talking about how many jobs this bill is going to take away. Like the construction union, for instance, right?
Right.
Because they's pissing on them too.
Yeah, but what do the actual workers think?
They're losing their jobs. I don't know. You want me to go and ask them?
Well, there you have it. So,
I mean, these are so his base. The people that's going to be losing Medicaid in these rural areas, the people that's going to be losing SNAP in these rural areas, the people that's going to be losing the most hospitals and first in these rural areas. His people are at the find out part now. That's what's happening.
find
That's
out
what's
part,
happening.
the more you find out.
F around and find out. That's right. Ontario is putting a 7% tax on electricity to America. Ouch. He's pissing off Canada to the point where this is the equivalent of going nuclear.
Is this?
Well, no, because they didn't cut the electricity off.
Well, this is going to be another FAFO situation long term. That's what I think with Canada. Because remember, I keep telling you, Leo, we are the number one consumers in the world, and we should have leverage amongst a lot of things internationally. That's always been my point.
And that's Trump's opinion. And somebody fiscally responsible would leverage that in a meaningful, powerful way. But saying I'm the number one consumer and just like so I'm gonna make all y'all pay me more money, it's gonna make people stop messing with you, not be the number one consumer no more. You have to use it in meaningful, powerful ways, but you have to leverage it in such a way that you don't alienate the very people supplying you. Because it goes both ways. You might be the number one consumer, but you also need supply. And China is the number one supplier. So
That's a bad thing, Leo. You should be ringing the alarms about how we depend on China. China.
I can't disagree with that. That is alarming.
Thank you.
But under the circumstances, if you know that you're relying on them, you don't cut off your hand to smite your face or your nose. You don't cut off your nose, bro. You can slowly wean off, but to just completely alienate the people that give you the very things you need to survive sounds like it might not be in your best interest. Do you disagree?
Well, again, just like with the SNAP and public assistance, there should be a proper transition from the dependency to independence.
Yeah, Chrissy is following us. He's losing support. The reason is because his decisions were that bad. That's
Absolutely.
absolutely bad. Like Michael Jackson bad. We're in the finding out portion. Yeah, that's it. We are finding out. Well, the people that didn't know are finding out. A lot of us, unfortunately, were very well aware. The bill. Oh, that's what I wanted to look up. We're at this. Yes, let's share this. Let's come here.
Leo.
Yes, we're going to share this because this is paramount.
Out of all other issues, right?
Oh no, all of them are, but this is another one.
Let's see where Leo's taking us now. Social Security. Hey, no
Oh
tax on
no,
Social
no, no, no. That's the
Security.
wrong way to do it. It's the wrong way to
You
do
forgot to
it.
mention no taxes on Social Security for the seniors.
Right. That's
That's a
exactly
good
it.
thing, right,
Control
Leo?
F.
Let's talk about no taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime, no taxes on Social Security. These are the three principles I've been harping on before this actually got passed. But we don't talk about those good points, do we?
So if you notate with the Control F, when you type in Social Security, there's zero references in this bill. Zero. Social Security.
You're looking at the summary, Leo. Why don't you open up the PDF?
This is the PDF. Social Security is not mentioned one time in the bill. It's a lie.
Can you go to the PDF version, please? Because I think that's the summary. There's no way that's 900 pages on one internet page.
Okay,
Now,
so where's the PDF? Because this is off the gov website.
right. And so let's see. You're on the summary portion. All information. Let's see. Bill summaries. Okay, well, that's a simple search. Just put in Congress space .gov bill PDF. It's called OBBB. So put in Congress space, put a space, and then put .gov, and then put OBBB. No, get put PDF next to it, Leo.
Uh,
That's fine. Put PDF at the end. No, fine. Okay, there you go. Okay, scroll. Let's see. That's not it. No. All right, I guess you're gonna have to put in one big beautiful bill.
it's not there. I mean, we can do this, but it's not there.
All right, fine. Well, long story short, let me see if I can find it for you.
It's. I mean, you could do this. What you're going to find is it's not here. It's not here.
Mhm.
All information.
Okay, maybe this is it right here.
Okay.
Ah, yeah, just like I thought. Here we go. Okay, all right, Leo. I found it. Da-da-da-da-da. Okay,
Good.
where are
Find
you?
Social Security now.
Okay, let me share my screen, I guess. Just making sure this is the right thing here. June 30th. Okay, this is where I found it. I put in one big beautiful bill PDF. And here is, let me just make sure if this is right here as well. No, that's what you were looking at. Who wants that? I want, look, it's the House Ways and Means Committee. Remember Charles Rangel, Sleep in Peace? Boom. Whoa, that's not the one I wanted. Let's see if this is it. June 16th. I want the one from that's not it, Leo. Why you messed me up here? Let's see.
It's. I
One
mean, we're
June 30th.
practicing.
Let's see. Damn, Leo, I just had it. Oh, yeah, here it is. Okay. So basically, this is one big beautiful bill act. This is what came out on June 30th. And as you can see, this is the text. Boom, 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 boom. Large size text makes sense. Control F, social security. And here it is in section 70607, Social Security, out of what, 91 searches here for F. So there you have it, my friend. PDF is where it's at.
Okay. Can you show me where it actually says there's actually a cut on taxes?
You mean cut on taxes or taxes on tips or taxes on overtime?
Or Social Security? Because the one on tips and the one on overtime expires in 2 years. It expires in 2 years. It expires. It's only a short-lived thing. It's here, I'll give you something for a year or two while the tax cuts for the rich are extended to forever. It's a joke.
Damn, Leo. Tell us how you really feel, unbiased.
The unbiased conclusion is if you're telling me you're going to give me a tax break on overtime and a tax break on tips, and it's only for 2 years, but meanwhile you're going to extend your own tax cuts forever, you're spitting on me. That's how I really feel.
Yikes.
How do you feel?
I feel tired. It is now officially 2:15 in the morning here in Ghana. Hello, everybody.
Some tariffs are going to be as high as 40%. Since Liberation Day, ice cream and beef has hit the highest rate since the 90s. Since the 80s. I'm sorry. Like it skyrocketed. The economy is weakening. GDP shrank 0.5% in Q1, and the Fed and World Bank expect GDP to be just 1.4% in 2025, down from 2.8. They expect the GDP to be half what it was last year. 25% of the national debt we have right now before he has the $5 trillion, 25%. One quarter of the United States debt came from Donald Trump's first term. These are just some of the wild numbers. He already added a quarter of the debt himself. Now he's adding $5 trillion. He already had 25% of all of our debt was because of Trump. What else is there while you're looking for something that's
Once
not there?
again, look that up compared to other previous presidents. Just saying.
Oh, listen. All right, that was ridiculous. Like,
That's for the
listen.
viewers, not you.
If there's 25% from him, there's only 75% for the other rest of all of the presidents combined. He put a quarter of the debt himself when he gave these rich people the cuts the first time.
Wow.
Yeah, those are the maths. The math is mathing, and it's not looking good. ICE is going to receive $178 billion while you're still looking. You want to make this? You want to share after you, or you don't find it because it's kind of like silly at this point. It's not there.
What, Social Security or
The Social Security cuts?
God.
Why don't you share afterwards? Because it's not there. You're looking. It's not there. It's not there.
Okay, let me ask more specific question. So you're saying no tax? I said no tax on Social Security, right?
Right. In the interim, Gen Z support is up on according to the polls for Trump.
That's right.
Yes, younger people are easier to fool. I understand.
What? You say that to the dummy crats.
I mean, listen, young people don't buy things for themselves, or they're just starting to, so they don't know the difference in price. While older people, we're looking at the prices go up, so we're alarmed, we're suffering. The generation that's supporting him is like, well, these are the only prices they know, so they don't realize that they're getting duped. They don't understand that they're being lied to because they have nothing to compare it to. Like, for instance, when Trump originally came out saying that he bombed Iran and it completely obliterated their nuclear program, now they're saying, well, they'll be able to build nuclear weapons within a year.
I don't know about Iran, boy. That's
That's the new thing from
been the
Trump's
boogeyman for us for a
administration.
long time before Trump.
Well, I mean, right. Tony Gilbert said before Trump that they could have nuclear weapons within a year. So nothing has changed from this bombing. That's according to the current administration's assessment of their
Here we
strikes.
go. So far, let's see. Somebody's like in the episode off screen, I guess. So
I'm sorry.
anyway, I said somebody sounds like somebody's enjoying the episode off screen in your house. All right, so boom. Here we are at the Google search, no tax on Social Security. So you have the White House talking about this. You have the news that's trying to skew your view. And then you actually have the actual Social Security Administration actually talking about this as well. So
Right,
there you
but it's
go.
not in the bill. You can talk about it all you want. It's not in the bill. That's just saying, like, what? Are you freaking for
It
real?
says right here, it
It's
says the bill
not.
ensures that nearly 90% of Social Security benefits will no longer pay federal income tax benefits, providing meaningful income tax. So basically, right here, it's in the bill, according to Social Security
That's
itself.
not the bill. Social Security. Who runs Social Security? That's his administration. What is actually in the legislation? Not what they're telling you is in there. What is in there? So now we're going to ignore our own eyes when it's not there and just listen to Trump because he's telling the truth and his administration. Are you shitting me? You done made me curse.
Once again, you, like a lot of other people, are actually dismissing the .gov websites, which are supposed to be the
Later
primary.
for the what is physically in the bill. I don't care what the websites say.
Oh God, let me take off my
What websites
glasses.
are telling me that I'm reading with my own eyes is not real.
Sheesh, it's hot in here.
That's what you're telling me to believe what they're saying, not what I see with my own eyes, not what I can physically show you where it's not there. Later for that, they said it's there, so the fact that it's not there doesn't mean anything. It's the same administration that said they completely destroyed Iran's nuclear system and now changed that. It's the same ones that promised that they was going to give us all this money from Doge, $5,000 each American, what a stupidity it was. It's the same. I could just keep going about this administration's lies, and it's not in the bill. They talk about tax cuts for overtime and tax cuts for tips. It's in the bill, but it only lasts 2 years. They don't tell you that part. I can show it to you. Would you like to see it again? Because I've shown it to you twice.
Sure. Let's see.
Oh my gosh. All right, let's see. Like you said. No, you don't have to look it up. I have the bill pulled up. We
Yeah,
can
show
do
me what the
this.
Social Security or whatever
No,
you just
Social
said.
Security is not in there.
God.
This section established a new above the line tax deduction through 2028. Okay, so it's 2.5 years. For qualified overtime income for individuals who earn more, blah, 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 160,000. To be eligible for the tax deduction for qualified overtime income, taxpayers must provide a work eligible social security number, blah, blah. 2028 is the big thing. 2028, 2028, 2028. The tax deduction phases. This section establishes a new above the. Oh, it's not overtime anymore. So overtime, where it's mentioned, is in 2028. That's where it ends. What's the other one? Tips. I wonder what it says. I'm kind of curious. What is it going to say for tips? It's not what it was. It wasn't listed as tips. That's what I thought. No, it's here. But I found it, but it wasn't called tips. That's why I'm trying to remember. Dag. I don't remember what it was called. Oh gosh. Maybe I could try no tax. See, that's not. How did they mention it? Oh, qualified tip income. It's right here. So here's it's 2028 for. Wait, let me see. Social Security. Taxpayers must provide a work. Oh, that's they got to provide the number. This section establishes a new above the line tax deduction through 2028 for overtime. 2028 for overtime. 2028 for tip income. It expires in 2028 in black and white on the bill website. There's nothing for Social Security. I don't understand. Oh, wait. There's nothing for Social Security. It's a lie. Period.
Period, point blank. So there you have it. So the White House website is obviously lying. The Social Security.gov website is obviously lying propaganda.
Well, the bill doesn't have it. So what do you expect me to say? That they're telling the truth and the bill has it, it's just not in the bill? I don't understand.
I don't understand either. But the fact is, you just proved that there's no tax on overtime and there's no taxes on
For
tip.
2 years while their
That should
taxes
be
go for
good thing. That should be promises made, promises kept, don't you think? Just like the Voting Rights Act, you people love so much, it had expiration date too. Makes sense to me.
so the MAGA
Oh wow,
response
what happened to
is
2028, Leo? That's another presidential election. Duh.
be happy for what you got. These are the crumbs we're giving you, be happy for what you got. While they robbing us blind. That's unreal. You wanted to talk about Kennedy. I'll bring Kennedy up.
And how moms should hate the CDC for them hiding the fact of how introducing a what the hepatitis, I think, vaccine caused so much autism, generational
Huh?
autism, the epidemic of America, autism.
Or the fact that over 1,000 people are dead from measles and these are unvaccinated
Okay, I
people.
gotta see this one. Over 1,000 people dead from measles. Okay, that's one's got I gotta look into myself.
Ah, yeah, it's unfortunate. Like I said, people are already dying. So I see here, we
Okay.
talked about this earlier.
Wow, it looks like Kennedy attended the funeral of the Texas girl who died from measles. I don't see the millions of people dying that you're talking about, but okay.
Said 1,000.
I don't see 1,000 here either.
Uh,
And the man actually went to the death of a girl that died from measles. Yes, says a lot about his character, don't you agree? Kennedy is
was she
really
vaccinated?
huh? Was she
Was she
vaccinated?
vaccinated?
All the people that died suddenly, were they vaccinated for COVID? Of course, the pedia's not going to tell you that answer. Now, I want to see the comments about this one. Hope we can all agree that the COVID vaccine was not a good thing or helped anybody. Majority of people, rather. I can't wait to see what Crazy J has to say about this one. If they're still up at this time, I guess.
Um,
Hmm.
what is this? Worse news. Oh God, I didn't know measles did all of this. Jesus, Monetti. I
Yes, I
wouldn't
want to
want
see
to
the
be
thousands
that.
of people that died, Leo. Let's go. Then you get to Kenny, I get excited because I used to work for his pack. Therefore, I
That's
have a
true.
bias. I just want to disclose that I have a bias. Oh God.
Uh, okay. What it looks like I might have been misinformed. There's only 1,000 people confirmed with the measles, not dead.
There you go. So looks like people are just sick from an
I was
illness,
wrong.
and they should have natural immunity, natural herd immunity. We're not going to talk about natural immunity, the antibodies. We won't say more antibodies or white blood cells, Leo. Just like with the COVID, Dr. Fauci, ouchie, that we can't talk about because we're being censored.
Oh well, only 12% of the people got hospitalized.
That's right, just like the flu. Isn't that something how they don't talk about the flu hospitalizing a certain percentage of the population? Or the common cold.
Only
Wow, we depend on vaccines.
12% were hospitalized. It's not a good number.
Why should we be dependent on vaccines is my question instead of proper
12% of
diet and
people were
exercise,
hospitalized.
cod living oil, vitamins A through zinc. Remember these things? Of course not. Big Pharma's not going to let the media tell you about these things, but my man Kennedy will. Oh, what about the food being fake and us being having food stamps paid for candy and soda?
Thank you, Crizzy. Yes, if the tax breaks on forever, then it was just
Here we
crumbs
go.
thrown on the
Here we
table.
go. Back to Trump.
No, I'm reading the comments. The comments are like remarkably. This is a remarkably unbelievable conversation. Basically, like, okay, so we was talking about the fact that already people died because of the NWS. I'm sorry, well, unalived, excuse me, because of the NWS, right?
God. What's the NWS? What's that?
National Weather Service.
Oh, okay, yeah. Thank you for bringing it back up. Okay, good. So many acronyms.
Word. I agree with you. So,
NWO.
word. That's actually what's happening. So FEMA is actually funding Alligator Alcatraz. So with people being unalived in Texas, a red state, because the National Weather Service couldn't tell them there was a flood coming because of all of the cuts, FEMA, who's probably supposed to be out there trying to help them and rescue anybody that they can and do whatever they can, is funding Alligator Alcatraz. Like, this is something out of a medieval movie. This is not real America, but this is happening. And people are actually celebrating immigrants. Now, let's talk about these immigrants, right? Because,
Let's talk about
these are
this.
supposed to be the worst of the worst, the biggest criminals.
They're not immigrants, Leo. That's why they have to be called migrants. Just like refugees from Hurricane Katrina have to be called evacuees because refugees sound like it's from a foreign nation. So that's how people do the semantics with the wordplay to convince us, the American people, to feel some sort of a way.
I don't even understand what you just said.
They're
Immigrants.
not immigrants, they're migrants for a reason. These are illegal aliens. Immigrants means that you went through the proper process to get in the country. Don't you see why they're called migrants? And they've skewed the word in such a way to make you think that they're one and the same when they're not.
The immigrants being taken to Alcatraz, Alligator Alcatraz, many of them citizens by what the Constitution said, naturalized citizens. If you're born here, you're a citizen if you have a child here. Child of citizen, you're a citizen. You're not a migrant, you're an immigrant. Until the nationwide injunction where now they're trying to ignore the Constitution, which means that, none of us will be none of us will be citizens because what is a citizen? Somebody that what was the exact jargon I want to be sure that you brought back up that Trump used originally to fool everybody?
Just like everybody's being fooled to think that migrants are immigrants when these people just poured
Subject to
into
the
open border.
jurisdiction
Don't talk about
of.
that. Oh God, here we
Subject to the
go.
jurisdiction of.
They don't talk
So
about this in the hood, but okay.
they
This
don't
might be
talk about this in the hood, right?
this
So
might be
you're
this
in the
is a
hood and they're
conversation.
not worried about they're in the hood, not worried about the police coming and the new laws that's being made up to try and arrest people. I don't know what hood you in.
No, no. Every summertime's the
You in the
same.
Bronx. Isn't that a highly Spanish population?
Yes, it is. One out of
And
three
they're
people.
not talking about this?
No, actuality, a lot of immigrant groups that came here the legal way, like the Dominican community, like the Mexican community, like freaking African community, they're all upset about this. Even people from the Caribbean or West Indies is upset with all these illegals pouring in through the border and clogging up the immigration system. And they've been waiting, like some people like Sophia, who I know from Brexit, waiting 16 years to get their citizenship. And this is not fair. So a lot of them actually voted for the first time for President Donald Trump. It's not ironic
Yes, but
how
they're at
the
the
immigrant
find out
community,
stage.
especially the Latinos, overwhelmingly voted for Trump, and the Democrats thought they were going to side with them. So, what are we talking about here? They like these policies. It's not ironic.
They liked the concept until they realized that the truth of the matter was that when Trump was talking about immigrants, he was talking about them. And once they came to that realization, his popularity in the polls, I heard today is the worst of any president in history. I don't know how true that is.
Oh God! Of course,
No,
when
that's what I heard. I don't know. I
Donald
don't
Trump
know
is
for sure.
breaking barriers. He's breaking barriers when it comes to doing evil for this country. Keep going.
Well, I mean, subject to the jurisdiction of. If an immigrant comes to listen, watch this, watch
Yes,
this,
I'm
watch this. I'm gonna
watching.
make it easy for you. I'm gonna make it real easy for you. Subject to the jurisdiction of. If an ICE agent, ready? If an ICE agent
No,
can, if an ICE agent can arrest you, you're subject to the jurisdiction of because you can be arrested. Period.
detained, detained. Remember that word? You want to include the
If
word
you're
detained?
subject, if they can detain you, then you're subject to the jurisdiction of. That means every migrant is subject to the jurisdiction of. So
Good.
what separates them from black people?
Oh, guess what? I was raised that we didn't come in that way. Therefore, we're not immigrants or migrants or nothing like that. We were property. Back to the 14th Amendment and back to you, Leo. Hopefully the closing, because here in Ghana, Africa, it's now 2:30 in the morning.
Well, I'm going to close soon because I know you got to go. But I was just explaining, and I don't know if you got it, and this is important. It really, really, really is. That no one born here can say that they're a citizen anymore. I don't care if you're black, white, green, yellow, red, pink, and orange. Well, orange, obviously, he's the only one that, if you, took my shots. If you were born here, according to the interpretation of the law right now, you're not a citizen. If that's the case, and you don't have citizenship from being born here, then the 14th Amendment is eradicated. It doesn't make a difference. And this is the opinion of a Supreme Court justice, and the Supreme Court justices are the ones that determine how a law is interpreted. So if they believe
Constitution.
they interpret the Constitution. That's their job.
Thank you.
So if the opinion of the Supreme Court justice is that the Constitution can be interpreted, that naturalized citizenship isn't a thing if you don't fall under the rule of the land, fall under the jurisdiction thereof, if you don't follow the rule of the land, if you can't be arrested by the police, because that's all it means. It means if you can be arrested by the police.
The police brutality, right?
No, I don't know what you're talking about. If you can be arrested by if you can be arrested by the police, then you are subject to the jurisdiction of. All it means is that the police can arrest you. That's all it means. That's what it means. The police can arrest you. If ICE can arrest immigrants, they're subject to the jurisdiction of. So the subject to the jurisdiction of is just jargon to make people complacent. The actuality is there's no difference under law from us than it is other citizens born here, which is why they started using it, because under law, they were entitled, even though the law was created for us during the Civil Rights era, that law applies blanket. It's called a nationwide injunction. So if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. If we could use it, they can use it. If they could take it away from them, then they could take it away from us. If it's good for us, it's good for them. If they take it away from them, they can take it away from us. Because they're not taking away, they can't be like, oh, it's only for blacks, because that's not what's written in the books. What they're saying is it doesn't apply the way it's written. And that means it doesn't apply the way it's written to everybody. I hope that was a lot easier to understand.
Maybe, but not acceptable. But okay.
No, it's not, but that's what it is. That's what the 8-page ruling, or I'm sorry, dissent, 8-page dissent by the Supreme Court justice was. Do I have her here? I skipped around so much, I don't even know if I got her. What is her name? I forget. She basically said,
Jackson? Was it Sotomayor?
It might have been Sotomayor. I don't remember who did it. It might have been Sotomayor. I don't think it was Sotomayor. I don't remember her.
Name the Supreme Court judges that are women, or identify as women, or know what a woman is.
Well, that's it for today, folks. Wow, we're at 2,500 people almost. Thank everybody for coming. We really appreciate the support.
Where did you see that?
It's 24:30. If you enjoyed the content, please subscribe, like, share, let your friends know. Come and have these conversations with us. Hear what's going on. Maybe your voice can be the one that actually makes a change that can help us, or we can come together and figure something out that's actually going to be down the middle of the aisle that can help both sides. You're hearing both sides, how the argument can be interpreted from either way, and we'd love to hear your voice. Please join the critical thinking community. If you like the video, please give us a like and share it to your people. This is Leo, and I'm here with
Dion at nyconsultant.us. That's singular. Dion at nyconsultant.us. Whoa.
a link will be in the description. He provides services such as
Let me see if that actually happens in these descriptions, actually.
I put it in the description, man. I put it in. It's there. We got people either waiting to hear us sign out or what. You can look at the description after if you don't mind. Tell them
I
what
am.
you do.
Well, I'm a consultant and I help small businesses, nonprofits, faith-based organizations, and special interest groups try to achieve their goals. And right now, in the political game, I'm helping out with different campaigns. And that's why I'm in Africa, because this business is so toxic. Instead of going back to the psych ward, my new psych ward is Africa, just like Dave Chappelle inspired me to do. And hopefully you too. Just go to Africa and get a peace of mind.
All right. Thank y'all for coming. This is Leo and Honorable Dion Powell. I'm going to just do this.